طيب السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده أما بعد. We continue inshallah ta'ala in the study of this treatise or this poem in the science of Hadith, Mustalah al-Hadith, and we continue from where we left off. We are at line number 23, and inshallah ta'ala this lesson and one more lesson and we should be finished bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Okay, so he says now line number 23, ما أول السند ساقط ولو إلى تمامه المعلق دعوا وإن يكن سقط بعد التابع فذلك المرسل دون دافع وساقط الواحد لا في الطرفين منقطعا يدعى ولو في موضعين وساقط اثنين تواليا وإن في موضعين معضلا واعلم زكٍ. He says in the first line we're going to be taking the terminology of mu'allaq. Now the next set of terminologies that we are going to be taking are all connected to one of the conditions, one of the 5 conditions of a hadith being sahih, of a hadith being authentic. What were the 5 conditions of a hadith being authentic again? Quick recap.
A strong chain of narration.
Okay, Hassan, 1, strong chain of narration. Anything else? Number 2? Trustworthy narrators. Hassan, number 3? Huh? No illa. Okay, no hidden defects. Okay? 2 more? Precision, good precision, excellent precision. And number 5? No shudud, it's not allowed to be shadh. Okay, so the next set of terminologies are connected to one of them. And it was the first one that was mentioned out of the 5, which is a connected chain. The next following terminologies all have to do with the opposite of this, disconnections. Different types of disconnections in the chain. Okay, each one has a name, and so this is what he mentions. And he starts off with the word mu'allaq. Mu'allaq. What is mu'allaq? Now, we're going to use the board. Alhamdulillah, we have the whiteboard. Make dua for the brothers that got it, and the brothers that are working behind the scenes, or the brothers that you see running around. May Allah give them righteous wives, righteous offspring, and increase them in khair. Say ameen, all of you. Alright, I'm going to go to the whiteboard. So we said connected chain. Now the first one we're taking today that's disconnected is called mu'allaq. Arabic? Al-mu'allaq. What is mu'allaq? Mu'allaq is that we have a hadith. So imagine this is the text. Then we have a sahabi that narrates the hadith. Who narrates it from a sahabi? A tabi'i. And then we have underneath a tabi'i a student. Tabi'i. I'm not going to write it down. I'm going to write TT, tabi'i. And then we have an author. Like, let's say, Sunan Abi Dawood. Sorry, Dawood. Okay, this is so what? An author of a book, meaning he compiled a book and it's called Sunan Abi Dawood. Okay, this is the chain, and this is the what? Matan, aka the text. We have text, we have the chain, and we have the author that brought this in his book that he compiled. Mu'allaq is a disconnection that takes place between the author from the author's side. There is a disconnection from the author's side. And so, for example, Abu Dawood says in his book, instead of saying it was narrated to me from his teacher, for example, he will say, قال Ibn Umar. he will say, or let's say the tabi'i, he will say, قال Mahamed ibn Sirin. Mahamed ibn Sirin said that he heard from this companion that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam did X, Y, and Z. Where did the disconnection take place? The disconnection took place from the author of the book. From this side of the chain. Disconnection took place from this side. He either skipped his teacher, or he skipped 2 teachers, or 3 or 4, but the main thing is his connection began where? It began from the author's side. If there's a disconnection from the author's side, then it is called mu'allaq. Is that clear? Any questions? واضح? طيب, this is the first type that he mentions. Al-mu'allaq. What's the definition? Ahsant. That's correct. Ahsant. So, any hadith that is disconnected from the author's side, even if it goes up to the companion, any hadith that has a disconnection from the author's side. If that's his shaykh, if that's 2 people, if that's 3, all the way up to the sahabi, it doesn't matter. But the main thing is what? The disconnection started where? From the author's side. This is al-mu'allaq. واضح? طيب, the next one that he mentions, he says, وَإِنْ يَكُنْ سَقَّطَ بَعْدَ التَّابِعِ فَذَلِكَ الْمُرْسَلُ دُونَ دَافِعِ. He says if a disconnection happens after or at the tabi'i, after the tabi'i, then this is referred to as mursal without any doubt. So the second type of disconnection is al-mursal. The second type of disconnection is al-mursal. So we'll rub this off. Second one is called what? In Arabic, al-mursal. In English, you have it written down in your handbook. Mursal. What's the example of that? Let's take the same example. We have a chain, we have a text, we have an author. Author is not important right now, but let's say we have the author. This connection, where does it take place from what you've understood so far, or what we read? Have a guess, huh? After the tabi'i. Okay, so where is it? This side, that side? The top, not from the author's side. Okay? So in mursal, a hadith that is disconnected, that's referred to as mursal, is that the tabi'i, he says, I heard, or the Prophet ﷺ did such and such. He goes straight to the text and he skips out the sahabi. He skips out the companion. The tabi'i says, Al-Hasan al-Basri, who is a tabi'i, a student of the Sahaba, he doesn't say a companion told me from the Prophet ﷺ, rather he says straight away, the Prophet ﷺ said, or the Prophet ﷺ did. Did he meet the Prophet ﷺ? No, so there's a disconnection. Where is the disconnection? Between him and the Prophet ﷺ, there's a companion. But is that the real issue? Is that the only issue? Well, why is it a problem if there's only between him and the Prophet ﷺ a companion? Why would it be a problem? Didn't we say all the companions are trustworthy and it doesn't matter if he doesn't mention the Sahabi?
What if he didn't hear from a companion?
Try.
What if he didn't hear it from a companion?
Ahsant. What if he didn't hear it from a companion? Yes, it's possible there's only between him and the Prophet ﷺ a Sahabi, but it's possible that he never heard it from the Sahabi. It's possible that he heard it from who? Another tabi'i. It's possible that he heard it from another tabi'i. And it's possible that he heard from another tabi'i. And then he heard from a Sahabi, then the Prophet ﷺ. Now, we have to check the station, the trustworthy, the precision, everything about the life of this tabi'i and this tabi'i we need to know. So because there's ambiguity there. We don't know who he took from. Then that hadith is weak. The hadith is weak. And there are many narrations where tabi'i has taken from another tabi'i, taken from another tabi'i, taken from another tabi'i. Okay, there's many narrations like that. Okay? How he met maybe one companion only or two. So he only had 1, 2 hadiths from him, but the rest of his narrations in hadith and fiqh, how to pray, everything, he took it from a older tabi'i, a senior tabi'i. And so we can't take his word for just saying the Prophet ﷺ said. It's scrutinized as well. So this is the second type of disconnection. That a tabi'i says, I heard the Prophet ﷺ, or he says the Prophet ﷺ said or did. He doesn't lie and say, I heard. That's a mistake from me. Rather, he just says the Prophet ﷺ said or did. But he doesn't mention his wasita, his person that he took from.
Does that mean that all mu'allaq are not automatically weak, but all mursal are weak?
Both of them are weak. Okay. And there's so mu'allaq is weak, and mursal is weak, but there's a deeper discussion on the topic in bigger books that we're not going to take now. Okay? There's a deeper discussion on both of them in bigger books that we're not going to take at this level. Next one, still on the topic of disconnections. Okay, the next one that he mentions is al-munqati'. Now, we've had an example of disconnection from the author's side, we've had a disconnection from the top, and now he mentions the third example, or a third type of terminology for something that is that's considered weak and disconnected, but it's another type again. He says here, وَسَاقِطُ الْوَاحِدِ لَا فِي الطَّرَفَيْنِ مُنْقَطِعًا يُدْعَى وَلَوْ فِي مَوْضِعَيْنِ. He says that this next one, munqati', is any disconnection anywhere in the chain, whether it's the beginning or the bottom or the top, as long as it's not consecutive. As long as it's not consecutive, then it is referred to as munqati'. So any disconnection that we have anywhere in the chain, whether it's from the bottom or the top, but it's not consecutive, then it's referred to as munqati'. So the Arabic, al-munqati'. English. Let me see if you can write it. Leave it off. طيب المنقطع. Let's make the chain a bit longer. Okay. N for narrator. Another narrator. An author. Okay. Now this chain made it a bit longer. Munqati' is what now, from what you've understood? Tell me.
Single disconnection.
Single
disconnection.
A single disconnection anywhere in the chain. Okay, give me an example where.
So from the narrator to the tabi'i.
So from here to here, there's a disconnection. Let's do disconnection in red. There's a disconnection here. There's a narrator that he should have narrated from before going to the tabi'. But he never mentioned it. So there's a disconnection between him and him. Is it consecutive? Or is it just one? Just one, so it's referred to as munqati'. This is anywhere in the chain. If it happened at the beginning, it's referred to as munqati'. If it happened at the top, it's referred to as munqati'. So what does that tell you? That tells you that munqati' is more broader than the other categories that we took, but it can have the same picture, if you like, as the previous ones. So if it's at the author's side, then it's referred to as munqati', but it's also referred to as what? Mu'allaq, ahsant. And if it's at the top, it's also referred to as munqati', but it's referred to also as what? Mursal. Okay? But munqati' is more than that, because it can be anywhere. So if the disconnect is here, it's also referred to as munqati', here, anywhere. As long as it's not what? Consecutive. With each other? As long as it's not consecutive, meaning 2 in a row. So 1, 2 in a row. Then it's not munqati', it becomes something else. He says as well, وَإِنْ كَانْ فِي طَرَفَيْنِ, even if it's in 2 different parts. It occurs twice, but in 2 different parts. So let's say here we have an inqita', right? We have a disconnect. Let's say here, we have another narrator, an author narrated from him, and he missed him out. So how many disconnects do we have? 2. Is it consecutive? No, there's one in between. So it's not back to back, it's not consecutive. But there are 2 different places. This is still referred to as munqati' only, even if it's in 2 places. Obviously it becomes more weaker if it's in 2 places, but it's referred to as munqati' still. With each other? Clear. Last example of the terminology for the disconnected ones. Then he says وساقط اثنين تواليا وإن في موضعين معضلا وأعلم زك. If the disconnection is in 2 places consecutively, back to back, then it's referred to as mu'dal. So mu'dal is what? Mu'dal is any hadith that is connected in 2 consecutive places of the chain. Any hadith that is disconnected in 2 consecutive places of the chain. Anywhere where there are 2 gaps back to back, then it's referred to as mu'dal. Okay? So the example of that is, let's take this last one off, and we say right here, there's supposed to be a narrator here that he doesn't mention. So disconnect is 1, 2, and they are what? Back to back, connected, right after one another, disconnection. So we have the author, he narrates from his teacher directly, then he skips 2 people from the tabi'i, from the sahabi to the Prophet ﷺ. This is referred to as what? Mu'dal. Okay? English and Arabic. Sorry. Okay, so any 2 consecutive gaps in the chain is referred to as mu'dal. Any questions? Any questions? Clear, واضح, easy. Sister side, okay. طيب. The sister side will come to it at the end because I can't access it right now. طيب. Then he goes on to the next terminology, which is, he says, فهو مع القصد عفوا وإن يكن سقوطه خفيا ليس في تاريخه مأبيا فهو مع القصد مدلس خفي ودون قصد هو مرسل خفي وإن يزد. We stop there. He says the next one is al-mudallis. The hadith that is mudallas is basically the hadith where a person purposely omits a narrator between two narrators. He takes out a narrator between two narrators, or there's another form, but we'll just mention that for now. The different categories and different forms that they come in, you can learn in another book, in a higher book, inshallah ta'ala. But one of the examples of tadlis is that a person omits a narrator on purpose. He takes out a narrator on purpose in between two narrators. So, for example, we have a hadith here. The author narrates from his teacher directly, and his teacher narrates from this narrator who is, let's say he is weak. He's a weak narrator. Okay, actually, wait. I'm gonna have to. So here we have three narrators back to back, then the tabi'i, sahabi, then the matan. So we have here the teacher of the author. He narrates this hadith, and in it is a person that is weak. If he was to narrate his hadith, and he says, it was narrated to me by such and such, and he is thiqa, trustworthy with all the people, and he narrated from this narrator, but this narrator is weak with all of the people, or majority of the people, from the tabi' who is thiqa, is trustworthy, and he's trustworthy, then the hadith is sahih, right? But because of this person, the hadith is considered weak, because there's a weak narrator in it. So what does he do? He says, okay, this first narrator here, he met this narrator, he met him, but he never took hadith from him. Or he took one hadith from him, he never took anything else from him. He says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to skip this weak narrator. I'm going to narrate it as, I took from this guy, and he took directly from the second guy, above his teacher. From the tabi'i, from the sahabi, from the Prophet. What did he do? He skipped who? He skipped the weak narrator. Now looking at it, if we don't consider this, then we have a chain that looks outwardly as authentic, because they're trustworthy. Where's the ishkal? There's a weak narrator in there. Who hid him, omitted him, took him out on purpose. This narrator here. So this hadith is a hadith that is mudallas. This person is considered as a mudallis. And there's ways of figuring out how he did it, why did he do it, and stuff like that, which I mentioned in larger books. There are other forms of tadlis that we're not going to take now, but this is just one of the examples, and this is one of the worst examples of the tadlis, referred to as tadlis al-taswiyah. Okay, any questions on that?
How is it a mudallis found out?
There are many ways. From them, the clearest of ways is comparing with other narrations. So we compare it with other narrations. Most hadith, whenever we're grading them, we always have to compare to other hadith. So why he's the only one that took out like that? And we have so many other people that kept him. Number two, he's being found or he's been asked directly, have you heard from such and such? Or did so and so hear directly from so and so? So if this guy's asked, did your teacher hear directly from him? He will say no, because he has to be truthful. He will say no, he didn't. So he didn't hear from him. He heard it from a middle person. And he names. There are different ways, and they are mentioned in the books, but this is just an example, and this is what the terminology is referred to. There are lighter versions of tadlis, where they would, for example, hide the name of the teacher by giving him another name, so that the people don't realize. Why? Because he's scared that the people will say he's weak, and he holds him to be trustworthy. For example, that's another category. Well, as I said, we're not going to go into all of them right now. Is that clear for now?
So is that the integrity of a mudallis gone? Are they taken from?
Depends. This type is more severe, and so it has a bearing. طيب. The next one is al-mursal al-khafi, which is referred to as the hidden mursal. Mursal is what? Remind me. What does mursal mean?
Disconnection from the tabi'i, from the tabi'i side.
Ahsan, from the tabi'i going directly to the Prophet ﷺ, skipping the sahabi. The mursal is the tabi'i directly to the Prophet ﷺ. They're skipping the sahabi. They take out the sahabi. Okay, so now here this is referred to as mursal al-khafi, the hidden mursal, which is that a narrator, and here he says specifically, there's different narration, or there's different opinions of the scholars on the difference between mursal al-khafi, hidden mursal, and tadlis. There's different opinions. They're similar, but there's different opinions. Here the author, he says the difference is that the mudallis, he purposely hides a narrator, omits a narrator. As for mursal al-khafi, then it is without a intention. So for example, that a person mentions a hadith, that this person heard from such and such. He lived the same time as him, but he never heard anything from him, or he never met him. So let's say me and Ahmed, we lived both in the city of Birmingham. We lived in similar ages, but I never met him, he never met me. For argument's sake. Then he goes to another country and he says, yes, I heard Mahamed narrating this or saying this or such and such, but he never met me. But for the one that's from the outside or in another city or another country, he will think, okay, you live the same time, you live in the same country, then okay, you probably heard. It's probably right what you're saying. But in reality it's not. He didn't ever meet him or hear a hadith from him. Okay, so this is mursal al-khafi. وَإِن يُزَدْ رَاوٍ وَنَفْسٌ فُضِّلَ فَذَلِكَ الْمَزِيدُ فِيمَا اتصل. Al-mazid, this is referred to al-mazidu. المزيد في متصل الأسانيد. طيب. In English, we just wrote al-mazid just to shorten. Okay? Where is this referring to? So we have a chain of narration. Okay, so we have 4 chains of narration. We have the authors, an N for narrators. Then all of them narrate from the Sahabi, from the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So from the Sahabi, how many narrators narrated from that one Sahabi? 4. Okay. From those Tabi'een, they all have a narrator that narrated from them. So they're all on the same level. Then we have from that level 3 authors, but one of them added an extra narrator here, and then we have the author. So which one is longer? This line here. All of the chains that are surrounding it only mention 2 narrators underneath the Sahabi, but this one mentions 3. This guy, he is added extra in between the different tabaqat. Instead of him being here, he's been added extra. You know what, to make it even more clear? Okay, so we have all the same level, right? He adds an extra narrator here. Do the rest of them have this extra narrator? No. He added it here. Al-Mazid fi muttasil al-asanid. What's correct though is that there's not supposed to be an extra narrator here. And so maybe this author got it wrong, and he added the extra narrator where he was not supposed to fit. This is called al-Mazid fi muttasil al-asanid. How do we know it's not supposed to be the case? By comparing it to the other chains that are similar to it. Is that clear? Does that make sense, or is it a bit tricky, this one? Ala kulli hal, don't worry too much about it, but usually they don't mention this category in the smaller books, but here we go, we have it here, so we'll have to take it. طيب. The next one's a bit easier, inshallah ta'ala. He says, زيادة الثقة مما قبل إن لم يخالف عددا أو أعدلا. زيادة الثقة, the addition of a trustworthy narrator in a hadith. We have a hadith, all of them said, the Prophet ﷺ said, and they mentioned the text. And let's say we have 9 turuq, 9 different paths. One of them adds, one of the narrators from those paths adds an extra narration or extra addition to the wording of the hadith that is not included with the other 8. But the person that added this extra addition, is he trustworthy or weak? He's trustworthy. And the trustworthy usually we accept. Right? The origin is if the ziyada, if the addition of a trustworthy person, that is to accept. But what if here he mentions an addition that goes against what the other 8 narrated? Do we accept it still? No. We have one person on this side and we have 8 on this side. They've all mentioned, the 8 have mentioned the similar wording, and the 9th added the extra addition that goes against the 8. It opposes. So this is not accepted. Or we have 2 here and we have 1 here. These 2 are considered the highest level of precision and trustworthiness. And this one that's added an extra addition, his memory is a bit lower than them. And he says something that goes in opposition to what they said. then here also is accepted, but he's generally trustworthy. No, but he's opposed those that are more trustworthy, more stronger in their memorization than him. And so it's not accepted as well. So if he opposes a larger number, or he opposes those that are more trustworthy, then his narration is not accepted. But if he hasn't opposed, he's mentioned an extra wording, but it doesn't go against what they said. He's not opposing them. Is it accepted? It is accepted. If he's trustworthy, he's got good position, he's got good level of trustworthiness, and he doesn't go against it doesn't go against what they said in terms of meaning. It's not opposing, then it is accepted. Everyone with me?
What is that concept called?
This here, this topic?
That you just explained.
Ziyadatu thiqah. I'll write it down. زيادة الثقة. And in English,
Microphone.
the ref recorded. زيادة الثقة is this topic right here. So we have okay, so all of these on one side. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. You said 8 in it. Bismillah. 8 on this side. They all mention a text from the Sahabi, from the Prophet ﷺ, and they mention the same wording. One narrator on this side adds an extra information, an extra addition. If it doesn't oppose, doesn't go against those 8, then we accept it. It's trustworthy. Doesn't go against. Yes, because he's trustworthy. Remember, the narrator on this side is trustworthy. If he's weak, if he opposes, it doesn't matter. He's weak. We don't take the weak statement. Here we're talking about the trustworthy one. He's the one that mentioned something extra. If he doesn't go against, we accept. If he goes against, then he either goes against a larger number of trustworthy. We have 8 roots over here, and all of them are trustworthy, and he opposes them. So we don't take this. Or let's say there was only 2 here. Let's say there was only 2 versus 1. But they are more trustworthy than him. Then we take this and we don't take the addition that's here. So the ziyadat al-thiqa is accepted as long as it doesn't oppose a larger number or more trustworthy narrators. Any questions?
What is the other way around?
Okay.
Like this one is more trustworthy than the rest of the 8.
So if it depends. Look, every hadith is different, but how is he more trustworthy than the rest? They are weak and he's trustworthy. If they're weak and he's a lion, is a jabal, is a mountain, doesn't matter 100 people oppose him, but they're weak and he's a mountain. We take the thiqat and thabt over the weak. But if they're all trustworthy and he's trustworthy, and there's a larger number on this side, it's easier for one person to make a mistake than for 8 people to make a mistake. Okay? Any other questions?
What if, so a few of them are trustworthy, and untrustworthy, and there's one person that is trustworthy, compared to that, would that also...
One and one.
No, yeah.
So it's basically one versus one.
Yeah, pretty much.
And they're both trustworthy. We have to look at other qara'in, we have to look at other indicators. Okay, so now it doesn't even enter into this topic of ziyadat al-thiqah.
So you have to determine who's more trustworthy out of the two.
Yes. Look, they're both trustworthy, but this one narrates something that goes against this one. We have to look at other indicators. Did one of the narrators here make a mistake? Is there something that we're not seeing? We have to. That goes into like another chapter, but it doesn't. It exits this topic of ziyadat al-thiqah. Okay.
How do you know which side is right though? Like, what if there's more people on the left saying 1 and 1 has 3, but then here's 1 and 1 2?
Say.
How do you know which one is right though? Like, which side is right?
For the addition.
No, in terms of like what they're saying, does it oppose? How do you know which side is right? He could be 1, but right.
Because look, this is from a qaida that they take, which is al-khata'u ashalu ala al-wahid. The mistake is more easy, even if it's trustworthy, upon one person. Then for eight people heard it from their teachers, going back to the Prophet ﷺ, in this form, all of them the same way. One person made it extra. And if he was to even like really look into it, you might find that this sheikh here, he's got other narrators. Sorry for the writing, but let's say there's 2 other or 3 other narrators that take from the teacher here on this side. Okay? This guy, he's the only one that mentioned the addition from his teacher. First of all, it goes against these 8. And even from his teacher, if we was to really look into and look at other turuq, we'll find that other students, they narrated it the same as the rest of them. So why is he the only one that's got this extra addition? Even if it's trustworthy, it shows you that mistake came with him.
So there's no scenario where we take his opinion at all.
Never. Okay? As we said, if there's no opposition and he's a jabal, then that's a different matter. We're talking about his opposition here.
In that case, how does that explain that how a hadith that have that slightly different wordings existent?
Wordings, as long as the meaning is the same, that goes into another topic of al-riwayah bil ma'na, narrated by meaning. As long as the meaning is the same, then it's fine. Okay? It doesn't change the meaning. So that's not considered an opposition. We're talking about, they all said blue and he said red, for argument's sake. They said the Prophet ﷺ, he prayed like this in a specific salah, for example. He prayed 4 rak'ahs. One of them says, no, he did 5 rak'ahs. Are you sure 5? I'm sure, I think I'm sure. Anyone else can corroborate what you're saying? No one else can corroborate. It's not accepted, even if you're trustworthy. And it's normal, even for a trustworthy person, to make a mistake. This is the extra level that the scholars go to keep the level of authenticity of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where they even compile awham al-thiqat, the mistakes of trustworthy narrators. It's not something normal. It's just obviously the mistakes is almost nothing compared to the thousands of hadith that they narrated, but it still exists.
Will it damage their reputation?
No. فَيْضٌ مِّنْ غَيْبٍ. It's قَلِيلٌ مِّن كَثِيرٍ. It's imagine you taught a lesson. Just forget this hadith right now. You taught science for 15 years, and you've been teaching, and you authored 1,000 books. That's a lot, right? To author 1,000 books in this topic of science, okay? This field. You're considered an expert, giant, a reference point. But in one of your books, in a specific chapter, topic, you made a mistake. Does that now diminish your level, your status of everything you've done? Okay, now imagine he's done 10,000 ahadith. And he makes a mistake in 200. What's 200 from 10,000? Okay? The problem is, And this is where we get into, like, we're going to get into it later. The problem is when you have a narrator that only has 100 hadith, only 100, and he's got mistaken 65. That's an issue. Or 85. He only got 10 right. You can't even trust his 10. Okay? This is when it's a problem. But when it's the other way around, it's got all this correct, on point, he's got a little bit of mistakes, and that's normal. That's from him being a human being. And even then, we clarify that and they have that written down where those mistakes are, and they collect it and they give concern to it. طيب. Next point, point number, or bait number 31. والراجح المحفوظ والمقابل يبنى له من لفظ شذ فاعل. He says here, let's continue and we'll come back to this. وإن تجد مشاركا للراوي في شيخ فلا متابع به طفي وإن تجد موافقا في المعنى فقط فبالشاهد هذا يعنى وحيث لا فمفرد والبحث عن ذاك بالاعتبار يسمى حيث عن. He says from line number 32 to 34, we skipped line number 31, we'll come back to inshallah ta'ala. He says the affair of al-mutaba'ah and shahid. Okay. Let's use the same tree that we have. This, by the way, is called what? Shajaratul Isnad. The tree of the chain. The chain is written down like tree branches. Shajaratul Isnad. This is very important when you go to the level of grading a hadith. You need to map it out so you can see what you're working with. Okay, so now imagine we have this hadith from the same companion, and we have a narrator. This narrator saying that his teacher narrated in a specific manner. And his teacher has 3 other students. Okay? He says a specific thing, and he's followed up by these other students. This is called mutaba'ah. Okay? So let's say this is narrated in Sunan Abi Dawud. Then we think, okay, maybe this is the only narrator that narrates from his teacher, from a Sahabi, in this manner. Then we look. This looking, what we're searching for asanid, is called i'tibar. He mentions it here. I'tibar is the searching for asanid. You're looking for chains of narration. So we find in Muwatta Malik, and we find in Musnad Imam Ahmad, and then we find in Sunan al-Darimi these other narrations, all of them corroborating the narration of this first narration that we had. What is this called? Mutaba'ah. Or we've seen this and we looked even more. Then we saw, look, actually, you know what, even outside of his teacher, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other people have said the same thing as this narrator from his teacher. They've corroborated what he was saying. This is referred to as mutaba'ah. Okay? Or even if it's 3 or 2 other chains on the side corroborating what he's saying. This is referred to as mutaba'ah. As long as all of these narrations, as long as they go back to, this is the main thing for mutaba'ah, as long as all these narrations that are corroborating each other go back to the same companion. So let's say in this case, Ibn Umar. All these narrations, they're narrated from the same companion, Ibn Umar. Is referred to as what? Mutabi'. المتابع. If it's the same companion. Any questions?
Can you repeat that again?
Okay, I'll say this again.
Just the definition.
So, in short, if we have a narration, or a narrator, how do we say this? If there's a hadith narrated by one narrator, and then we find corroborating or follow-ups from other narrators in that same manner, going back to the same companion, then it's referred to as mutabi. If we have one narrator narrating a hadith, then we find follow-ups narrating in the same manner or similar manner, aiding the way he narrated it, then all of this is, and it goes back to the same companion, then it's referred to as mutabi. Does that make sense? Huh? No, it doesn't matter. Okay, I'll say it again. Forget the board. What's your name? Jibreel. Jibreel narrates from Ahmed. Ahmed says, the Imam of the Masjid read Surah Iqra in Salat al-Isha. It's narration. Jibreel from Ahmed from the Imam. Okay, we think now, right now, maybe he's the only one that narrated it. But we search, we look for more narrations. Okay? Put in the WhatsApp group. Did anyone hear what the Imam read today? Okay. Ammar says, isn't it? Ibrahim. Ammar says, Ibrahim told me that yes, the Imam, he read Surah Iqra today in the Salah. He followed, this chain follows up which chain? The chain of Jibreel follows up your chain. You're not by yourself anymore. You're not alone and you're not isolated anymore. There's someone else that's supporting you. This is called mutaba. Is that clear? This is just one person supporting you. Let's say we asked for more and we found 3, 4, 5. All of that's referred to as mutaba'at. The plural of mutaba or mutaba. Is that clear? Does it make sense now? وبالمثال تتضح المقال with the examples, it becomes clear.
So if only one Sahabi narrated hadith, it automatically be mutaba if it's sahih.
Say again?
You know, let's say only one Sahabi narrated hadith, so all the chains go back to him.
It's fine.
Will it be mutaba?
Yes, so look, Ahsan, another important point is, what you guys are saying, when you said it, you talk about the Imam, right? He was talking about the Imam, right? He was talking about the Imam, right? Ammar and Ibrahim, they all talk about the Imam. It goes back to the Imam, right? It's considered mutabi. But if someone comes, and this is the next topic, someone over there, sitting over there, they went with us. They say, Abdullah says, that Zakaria says, it's allowed to abbreviate exactly, says that, you know what, actually, you know, today, the Mu'adhin, he read Surah Iqra in the prayer. Is it mutabi'? No, because it doesn't go back to the same companion. Okay? Okay, so here, if we have another hadith or another chain that goes to another Sahabi, let's say Ibn Abbas, okay, Ibn Abbas has a narrator. The the original narration over here, we thought he was by himself, and we found mutaba'at for him. And not only mutaba'at, do you believe with me? We didn't only find mutaba'at for this guy, we found mutaba'at, right? Now we also found another narration. It doesn't go back to the same Sahabi, it goes back to another Sahabi, Ibn Abbas. Both of them going back to the Prophet ﷺ, that he read, for example, we have a hadith which says that the Prophet ﷺ read At-Tur in Salat al-Maghrib. He read Surah At-Tur in Salat al-Maghrib. Let's say it was narrated, I don't know who's narrated by right now, off the top of my head. Actually, it was Jubayr bin Mut'im. But let's just say Ibn Abbas narrated it and Ibn Umar. Then we say this is it's corroborating, right? It's a follow-up, right? But it's a different Sahabi, so it's referred to as a shahid. Ash-shahid. Basically meaning bear witness. Ash-shahid here, if it gives a similar meaning and gives strength to this narration, because another companion narrated it in a similar manner. Does that make sense? So the difference between mutabi' and shahid, one of the main differences is they go back to two different companions. The shahid and the mutabi' goes back to the same companion. And you could also say a shahid is not always the same wording. It could be the same wording, or it could be a different hadith, but it has a similar meaning. It's talking about a similar topic. It aids the same affair, even though it's a different hadith, a different meaning. Is that clear? And the process of looking for other chains that follow up or corroborate this first chain is referred to as i'tibar, al-i'tibar. This is the process of looking for a hadith in chains. It's like me going to the WhatsApp group and asking, did anyone hear what the Imam said? That searching part is called al-i'tibar. So we have three terminologies here: mutabi', shahid, and the affair of mutabi' and shahid, the searching part is called al-i'tibar. Any questions?
What's the shahid?
A shahid is a follow-up, but it doesn't go back to the same sahabi. It's from another sahabi, different sahabi, but it backs it up as well. Are we lost or are we still together? Still together, you're still in it, yeah. So continue, Oshi.
Where is al-i'tibar again?
Al-i'tibar is the searching process. The part where you're looking through the books to look for other chains that might support you. Because look, if I can't find anything, then this is just one chain. If I can't find anything supporting it, then it's referred to as mufrad. And that's going to come, we might as well just write it down now. If I can't find anything for it and it's by itself, it's singular, it's referred to as al-mufrad. There's nothing else supporting it.
That mufrad chain now,
Yeah.
is that sahih?
Depends.
Okay.
You have to check it out.
I would thought if it was sahih, then why bother then? But if it's different.
It depends. Okay? There's different scenarios. It could be sahih, it could be dhaif. It could be sahih and it's mufrad, but it's by itself. But it could be dhaif, just slight weakness. And we're looking for, is there anything else that can make it a bit stronger? If we can't, then it's a problem. If we do, then it makes it stronger. So this is different scenarios, different benefits.
Most hadith be mutabi' and shahid.
Say again?
Well, most hadith be mutabi' and shahid.
Most ahadith. Look, it's not about. This is different to. Look, we have hadith sahih, hasan, da'if. And this is the work part, behind the scenes. The working part. So now, the origin is that it's mufrad, and then I found other ahadith. I always have to find other ahadith or other chains to help me tick off that list. I'm going to get to it later. I'm going to tell you an important reason why we have to always look for different chains. Is that come? Yes.
Is a hadith with shahid stronger than one with just a mutabi?
It's not directly connected, but mutabi is always stronger. Mutabi, because it goes back to the same companion, it's always better and stronger to find a mutabi to support it, because it goes back to the same sahabi. But if you find a shahid, sometimes it can benefit, sometimes it doesn't benefit at all.
Just mutabi, or just a mutabi, or a shahid and mutabi?
That's the best of the best. If you have mutaba'at and you have shawahid, and this means this thing is like, it's widespread, it should be clear. It's affair, that is, if it's got a hukm behind it. Okay. Abdullah, can you get the finger ready? Questions, inshallah. We're going to round up with this last. So we have 4 right now. What 4 did we mention right now? Don't look at the board, look at me. Mutaba'a, Shahid, Al-i'tibar, the process. Mufrad by itself, it doesn't have nothing else helping it. Then we go back. Okay, look, okay. It's all interlinked. So if I start this one, it's connected to another one. But then we're going to have... We'll stop here. I think it's good we stop here. Are you guys good to go further? Continue? خلاص we'll stop here inshallah. Questions?
Will only go back to Sahabi and Mutabi?
Say again?
Go back to Mutabi.
So no, here for the Mutabi it has to go back to the same Sahabi. Even if it's different Tabi'in, it's fine. The main thing that is the marja is, so ahsan, so you mean like, so this is a Tabi'i, right? We have one Tabi'i right here, we have 4 students. This guy, he's got mutaba'at here on the same Tabi'i. Okay, so this is still mutaba'at, it's fine. Or we have a bunch of students here and a bunch of students here. They go back to 2 different tabi'in and to sahabi. They're making it a sahabi, then it's called mutaba'a. If it's not connected at all, at any level, because it's either connected at this level, or this level, or this level, or this level. But if it's not, then at the very least it has to meet here at the sahabi. Then it's called mutaba'a. If it doesn't meet at this level sahabi, and it meets at the Prophet ﷺ from a different sahabi, then it's called shahid. Okay? Any other questions?
Is it only at the level of the Sahabi that we say Mutabi or Shahid?
So if it's same tabi'i, same sahabi, then it's called mutaba'a. That's the main thing. Doesn't matter which level that they meet the mutaba'a. It can be a high mutaba'a, it can be a low mutaba'a, but they all the chains go back to the same sahabi. Here is Ibn Umar. If it's not Ibn Umar, it's another sahabi, like Ibn Abbas, or Abu Hurairah, or Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, then that is not called mutaba'a, it's called shahid.
Going back to mudallis, must be to this lead to a mudallis becoming a weak narrator themselves?
Depends. This level that we mentioned is one of the worst, so it can have ramifications for the person that does that. Okay, it can. You have to go back to the books that talk about the narrator. What did they say about him? Did he say this? Did they do jarh of him because of that? Or will they be extra strict with him? They will put extra conditions. In order for us to accept his narration, then he has to fulfill this. If he doesn't, we don't accept it as weak.
What's the difference between Munqada and Maqtu'?
Big difference. Maqtu' is talking about it's cut off at the tabi'i or below. Meaning you're saying Al-Hasan al-Basri said, in narration to Hasan al-Basri, Hasan al-Basri is tabi'i, he said X, Y, and Z. He never says I heard this from Sahabi, or I heard this from the Prophet ﷺ. It's his statement. This is the narration of the Salaf. Hassan Basri said this, Qatada said this. This is called maqtu'a. It's also referred to as athar. As for munqati', we're talking about hadith going back to the Prophet ﷺ. But then there's a disconnect anywhere in the chain. Any other questions?
No, you missed the line before you said you was going to go back to.
It's connected. That's the one I was going to go back to, but it's connected to something else later. Just remind me in the next lesson that we have to go back to it. Do you have it?
Just to
My
understand,
phone died.
just to understand the mufrad a little bit, does the lack of mutaba'a make a narration mufrad?
So if it's singular by itself, there's nothing else corroborating that it's mufrad. Okay. The question from the sister side. What's the difference between mufrad and khabar wahid, or if you say gharib? It's similar. It's similar. It's you could say it's identical almost, but it's talking about two different affairs. In terms of why the categorization was made in the first place. So shad, there are other narrators that agree with the narration, but they go back to different companion. No. Shad, we haven't taken yet, that's the one we're supposed to take, but we're going to take it next, because it's connected to munkar. Here, and maybe they meant shahid, not shad, shahid. Shahid, the shahid. A shahid is the narrators, they agree with the narration, but they go back to a different companion now. Yani, it's the same hadith, but it has a different companion. So let's say one hadith, the same wording, verbatim, but it's narrated from Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar. Is it the same companion? No, it's two different companions. So this is called a shahid. If we were just studying one, then we found this other hadith, we would say this is a shahid, a witness for it. Shahid, not shad. Shad is something else. We're going to talk about that another time. Then, okay, another question. Okay, we'll come back to this recap. The levels of weakness different in disconnection in the isnad. Yes, they are. The levels of weakness, they differ. So we've mentioned, today we've mentioned al-mu'allaq, which is the least of them in problem, especially the mu'allaqat of Imam al-Bukhari. And there's a different study, but it's very light, because he might make a hadith mu'allaq here, where he cuts it off, it's disconnected from him, all the way back to a sahabi or a tabi'i. But then in other places, he will mention the full chain. The only reason why he skipped mentioning the chain again is to summarize it, for example. But he has the chain somewhere else. So that's one of the reasons of mu'allaqat. There are other reasons. So this is akhafuha mursal as well. There's a difference of opinion on certain types of mursal. So it's lighter than the other ones. Munqati' is weak, but there are different types of munqati'. It could be munqati', as we said, in one place of the chain, that's weak. But then it can be cut in two different places, not consecutively, but in two different places. That makes it even weaker than the one that has only one disconnection. Then we have mu'adhal. Mu'adhal is the worst of disconnection. That it has two consecutive gaps, is the worst of them. So the order that he mentions it is the order of weakness. Okay, question said?
If you have two people who are performing shahid, but they rely on a method which is essentially they find a method which is similar to the method that they were looking at originally, but they come up with a different conclusion to whether the method is actually similar. Does that happen?
Summarize, meaning that the method is not the same.
It's not the same, but it's similar.
Similar.
One person said it's similar, and the other person said it's not similar. It's not relevant.
Yeah, it can still be referred to as shahid, even if it's different. And most shahids are like this. That's why it's not as strong as a mutabi. Because this hadith will be a specific hadith and a specific wording. Unless it's talk about fasting. They might use as a shahid another hadith, let's say fasting on a Monday. It's another hadith, it's not the same wording, but it's talking about fasting on a Monday as well. So they use that as a shahid for the permissibility or the affair of fasting on a Monday. But it's not the same wording, and it's a different companion. So it's not the same as having a mutaba'ah that follows up from the same companion and talk about the same topic. It's not the same. Mutaba'ahs are always closer. Shahid can be, sometimes it's not even accepted. Sorry, Sheikh. Okay, we'll take the last two questions from the sisters. Okay, one second, I'll come back to the brothers. Are all disconnected chains weak? Yes, all disconnected chains are considered weak. There is a discussion on some of them, like exceptions for some of them, but that's not the level to talk about it right now. Could you do a quick recap from Mu'awal to Al-Mazid, because there was some technical issues on the sister side. Okay, Al-Mu'awal, we said, is that it has two gaps. It's disconnected from two narrators consecutively, back to back. This is considered Mu'awal and is the worst of the disconnected terminologies of disconnected chains, Al-Mu'awal. Okay, so a Shaykh says from so and so, and he skips two of his teachers. He skips his teacher and the teacher of his teacher from the one above, and this is called Al-Mu'awal. Then we have Mudallis, and we talked about this. Perhaps it's better to go back to the recording, inshallah, when it comes out. It's going to come out quickly soon, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. It's probably better to go back because we did it on the board and probably going to make more sense. But I think that's all the questions on the girl's side.
What was Mursal Khafi?
Mursal Khafi is that there are two people, they lived in the same time, same city maybe, but they never actually met. How possible is that? Very possible, right? Have you met everyone in Birmingham? Have you met every sheikh teacher that teaches in Birmingham? No, innit? Okay. One of you goes and says, that sheikh said such and such. Someone from outside of your country, he looks and he says, okay, you lived the same time, you lived in the same city, and you said, he said, okay, he heard from him. Or he understands that you met him and you heard this hadith from him. That is a connected chain. But it's not really connected, is it? So this is why it's called hidden mursal. This is from the definitions of mursal khafi. There are other definitions, but this is one of them. Okay.
You see that some of these terminologies, mutabi and mufrad, they exist at the time of the Salaf, or they come about that slightly later.
Look, most of these terminologies, and this is a separate topic, but inshallah, maybe we'll mention in the next book that we do the introduction of the science of Mustalah al-Hadith. I don't know if we mentioned it. I don't think we did. How did this science come about? That's a whole different topic. But most of these terminologies, they came afterwards. Did they exist in the time of those generations? They did exist. Most of them did exist. The science of it in the golden generation. But maybe it wasn't written down. It was just applied. In the time of the Sahaba, they didn't need it. Everyone was trustworthy. In the time of the Tabi'een, when the next generation, there was starting to be some liars and starting to be some people that the Sahaba started becoming more strict in their narrations. So the mabadi', the usul, the foundations of these things that we're talking about is present from the time of near the end of the Sahaba, Tabi'een is wadih, up until we come to the time of Imam Bukhari, teaches Imam Bukhari and the likes, and it starts becoming penned down amongst other books, like the Muqaddimah of Sahih Muslim, like the Muqaddimah of Ibn Hibban, and like the Muqaddimah of Al-Hakim and others. And then later they started writing specific books on this topic. The first one being Hadith al-Fasil by Ar-Rama Hormuzi. And then later there were other books written, and then they were summarized, made into poem form, made easier, and the definitions started becoming the same. Maybe before there was two different definitions, so they started unifying the terminologies as much as they could and the likes. So this existed throughout and it developed just like any other science. But now, any other questions?
What's the difference between al-nazil and mazid?
Say again?
The difference between al-nazil and mazid.
So, al-nazil wal-ali is talking about how many people between you and the Prophet ﷺ, or the author, Bukhari or Abu Dawud, how many people between them and the Prophet ﷺ? If everyone has 5 people between them, and one of them has only 4, not because these guys, they added an extra narrator in their 5, no, because that was their level. That's just the natural, like going through the generation, that was the normal, how many amount of people that's supposed to be between them and the Prophet ﷺ. But one of them worked hard and ijtihad, strived, and he traveled when he was young. So he went past the people in the same era as him, and he managed to catch a higher level above. So he's only got 4 people between him and the Prophet ﷺ. This is considered Ali. As for Nazil, then let's say it's someone lived amongst a group of people in an era, and there is a higher chain. There was a sheikh that lived for a long time. If he was to get it from him, he would have 4 people. But he missed out. He died before he went to him, and so he's at a lower level. He's got 5 people between him, and most people got 4. That's what he's referring to. Whereas Mazid, it's a mistake to add him in. He did it mistakenly, adding an extra person in the chain, even though he's not supposed to be there. Okay? That's what Al-Mazid fi Mutasalasin. So this one's weak, and this one's just natural. It's just natural.
Does a narration have to be passed down verbally, or can it also be passed
Say again?
down? Does a narration have to be passed down verbally, or can it also be passed down through a writing, for example, a letter?
We're going to come to that. It's called Al-Wijada, and there's topics on it. It's possible and permissible, but that comes on later on. In the time of the Salaf and the golden generation and the likes, it was face to face. But later on, the books were written, getting an ijaza, it was possible to get it by wijada, or by mukataba, or by these other ways.
In a book like Sunan Abu Dawud and other like books that are not fully sahih, why would they include weak narrations in those books?
It goes back to their intention of why they authored the book. So they mention it, why they authored the book. For example, they wanted to mention all the ahadith that the scholars use as an evidence for fiqh rulings. Where when you pray, I do like this or I do like that. This is what scholars are already using. So he adds it to his book. If it's clear cut, fabricated or very weak, he will mention it. Bayyantu, he says, I will clarify it. And if it's like, he might be quiet from it and leave you to do the grading and the likes. But his point is what? Mentioning everything that's been used in ahkam. Tirmidhi has this condition. And others, they just want to mention a broad book on all hadith to do with ahkam as much as possible. So their intention is different from Bukhari and Muslim. Bukhari and Muslim, their intention is to mention everything that is authentic only. So it goes back to why he authored the book. What was his purpose?
What's the difference between Muqatta and Maqtu'?
We said that already. Muqatta and Maqtu'. Maqtu' we said.
What was it?
Maqtu' we said. You guys answer, you heard it already. It's cut off after the tabi'.
Yeah, so the tabi' said a statement.
So the tabi' said a statement. His statement. Mahamed ibn Sirin says such and such. إن هذا العلم دين فانظروا عمن تأخذون دينكم. Indeed, this knowledge is religion, so look to whom you take your knowledge from. This is a statement of Muhammad al-Sirin. As for Maqtu', then it's, let's say Muhammad al-Sirin. Muhammad al-Sirin says, I heard from the Prophet ﷺ. He says, I heard from the Sahabi, from the Prophet ﷺ. But underneath Muhammad al-Sirin, there's a missing gap. This is muqatta. There's a missing gap in the chain, going back to the Prophet ﷺ. Whereas the other one, Maqtu', it doesn't go back to the Prophet in the first place. It's just his statement. It goes back to him. Which level? Tabi'een and below. That's called Maqtu'. We end with that, inshallah. Next week, there's no lesson. Sadly, I'm traveling. And I don't like traveling a lot and cutting off the lesson. But this was already done months ago, so I couldn't cancel it. And so next week, there's no lesson. But the week after, we'll try to finish the book before Ramadan, inshallah. So excuse me and forgive me for cutting the lessons. I don't like cutting out lessons, but I already made this before we started these lessons. and we have to fulfill our promises. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.